Hi, welcome back to Swarzo History. It's been a while since the last episode. I've been busy. I wrote some new songs, still writing some songs. I released a single, Mytilene, which is the subject of this episode. I'm taking care of my kid, doing research, doing fun summer things. But we're back. We're finally back. And today I'm talking about the Mytilenean debate, which Thucydides records in his History of the Peloponnesian War. So, the Mytilenean debate fits in nicely with the theme of Odyssey as a whole. It's not on the album because I wrote it after I made the album, but it fits in very nicely. And I figure we'll talk about this for this episode, and then we'll move on to the plague in the next episode. So, the Mytilenean debate. Really, it starts off with the Mytilenean revolt. So basically, around the beginning of the Peloponnesian War, the Mytileneans on the island of Lesbos kind of decide that they're gonna try to take over Lesbos and throw off Athenian rule and set up a unified state there. And Athens hears the rumors and decides to show up with a big naval force, and there's kind of a rebellion that takes place. The Mytileneans send for help to Sparta, and the Spartans agree, but it's not enough and not fast enough. And in the end, the Mytilenean rebels under a guy named Salathus surrender and come to terms with Athens. And the prominent rebels like Salathus and others end up getting sent to Athens to find out what the judgment is going to be. So when those rebel prisoners get to Athens, they're pretty much immediately wiped out. Salathus gets executed almost right off the bat, and the Athenian people, kind of led by a guy named Cleon, decide that they're just going to send a ship to Mytilene with orders to kill off the entire adult male population as punishment for the revolt. So the next day, after that first ship is already sent, the Athenian people kind of question whether or not it was a good idea to send that ship in the first place. And the debate about what to do opens up, whether or not the Athenians should try to stop the sentence that they just passed, or if they should just let it go. And Cleon, the one who passed the original motion, obviously is the guy to stand in defense of the original motion. And he basically argues that the Athenians can't have an empire and be soft at the same time. They need to set an example and wipe these people out to discourage other Athenian subjects from rebelling in the future. And on the other side, you have a guy named Diodotus who takes issue with Cleon's insistence on just following hasty, violent impulses instead of talking things out. He appeals to reason and says he doesn't doubt that Mytilene is guilty. Everyone knows that. It's just whether or not killing everyone in the city is a good idea or not. And he basically argues that capital punishment like that won't serve the purpose that Cleon says it will. It'll just inspire future rebels to fight harder and not surrender, because they know if they surrender or lose, they're just going to get killed. Now, eventually, cooler heads prevail by a slim margin. Thucydides says the votes cast at the debate were pretty much equal, but the Diodotus approach wins out. So they send another ship, and the first ship already has a 24-hour head start. So the new ship that gets sent, the crew is promised all these rewards, and they're told that they need to eat while rowing and they need to sleep in shifts so that they can try to get there in time. And according to Thucydides, they do get there just in time. It's very dramatic. They show up right as the original sentence is kind of being declared. and they're able to stop the massacre right before it starts. So in the end, the prominent rebels who did get sent to Athens at the beginning were obviously killed, and Thucydides says it was like 1,000 people, but they didn't end up killing the entire adult male population of the city, which is nice. Instead, they kind of demilitarized Mytilene, tore down all of its fortifications, and kind of made them a more dependent subject state. So that's the historical background to the song. But if you know me, you know that I love Thucydides, and I think a lot of the stuff in Thucydides is timeless. So the song is really not just telling this story of this reversal in favor of justice, but it's a song about justice prevailing in spite of everything against it. So first ship already had a 24-hour head start. At this point, it's a race against time. Bad decision was made, and the Athenians made the decision to at least try to make amends for what they did, and they sent a second ship, and it worked. So it's a story about redemption and salvation and justice all wrapped together. And I think it's really relevant to pretty much all times. Basically, Cleon's the bad guy. He was the bad guy then, as Thucydides shows, by talking so much crap about him. And he still looks bad today. And people like Cleon, they look bad today, they're gonna look bad in the future as well when people look back on what we're doing. So that's episode 5 of Swarzo History, The Return, and I tried to make it kind of quick because I don't want to edit very long videos about this. I want to prioritize making the songs. But I would appreciate it if you're watching this still, if you would go and take a listen to the song on Spotify, here on YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon, Bandcamp, wherever, and maybe tell me what you think about it. Next time on Swarzo History, I'll be talking about the plague, which I promised in the last video, but then I got caught up in this. But the timeline lines up nicely with this, because the plague is actually about stuff that happens around the same time. So I'll see you then.